What's up, everybody? Coach Dacia here, bringing you another hot topic. This is one that there's always these cycles of the questions that I get. And here lately, there's been a particular company that I'm not sure how long they've been around, maybe the past decade, but they're popping up in cities and they are targeting people who don't necessarily like big box gyms, but still want to get an effective strength training session in only 20 minutes a session. So, what I did in researching this particular company was look at what they were saying the benefits of their particular program were, but also want to see some videos of what they were doing. And one of the big things that they like to say is a benefit of their particular program is that they are strengthening people in the eccentric phase and how important the eccentric phase of the lift is. So, in having to explain this to some of my people in the osteo community, I realized that most people don't understand what that means. So, I wanted to do a quick video that explains what eccentric is versus its counterpart, concentric lifts, and what that looks like when we are strength training and what types of movements that you should be looking for to do when you are strength training. So, let's get started. So, there are several different ways that you can move the human body and strengthen it, right? Whether you're using your body weight or using outside modalities like dumbbells that I'm holding here right now. The most common form of lifting weights that you see and that you know and that you recognize is what we call in the fitness community an isotonic lift. Isotonic meaning same tone, and in this particular realm of strength training, tone meaning the weight. Okay. So it's basically what you think of when we do a movement. You're holding the same weight the entire time you're doing the movement. So a joint is moving, and at some point, usually at the distal end of that joint, the end, right? You are holding the same weight or you're pushing the same weight. Okay. In the example of a bicep curl, I am holding dumbbells and I'm holding the same pound dumbbells as I curl the weight and as I extend back down. Okay. That is an isotonic lift. And that is probably what you think of when you think of traditional strength training. Now, within an isotonic lift, you have two different things happening. You have the muscle shortening and then you have the muscle lengthening. And when I say the muscle, I'm talking about the main muscle that is working during that movement. So in the case of a bicep curl, what are we working? We're working your biceps, okay? Now, in theory, there's three different like muscle fibers that we can talk about when it comes to the biceps, but I'm just gonna say biceps in general. And when we do a normal, straightforward bicep curl, we're working the main part of the bicep, which is right here in the front, okay? Now, when we talk about concentric and eccentric, you've heard eccentric probably through a lot of these companies that are touting different machines and modalities, but you have to understand the concentric part too. So when we talk about the muscle belly, we're talking about the biceps and we have our starting position. You all know that as you curl the weights up to your shoulders, that muscle is actually working. You can feel your bicep working. And that's because the bicep is shortening during this part of the lift. As it is shortening, we call that the concentric part of the lift. All right. So concentric equals shortening of the muscle. Now, for most people, this is the most important part. You know why? Because as the muscle belly is shortening, that is where we're getting our hypertrophy of the muscle. That's where the muscle size is coming from. And most people equate muscle size to muscle strength. Not necessarily the case, but for a lot of people, the bigger your muscles are, the stronger you are. Okay. So concentric is where we are shortening the muscle belly. Well, what you do one way, you got to do the opposite, right? We've got to lengthen the muscle belly. So as you are lengthening the biceps to get back to your starting position, that is the eccentric part, okay? So if you keep hearing the word eccentric, eccentric simply means the lengthening of the muscle, okay? So in this case, our bicep is lengthening right here as we lower back down. Eccentric is very important because for a lot of lifts, the eccentric part of the lift is when we are fighting gravity the most. I want you to curl your dumbbells up here nice and safe, and I don't want you doing that. I don't want you dropping the weights back down to the starting position. I want you to slow and control that movement coming back down to the starting position, okay? And a lot of people don't put a lot of emphasis on the eccentric part. They don't understand that it's just as important and that you can strengthen the muscle in the eccentric part, even though the muscle is actually lengthening during that time. Okay. So if you're reading up on any companies that tout the eccentric part of their machines or the machines helping with the eccentric part of the lift, that is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with that lengthening part. Do you know how to control your muscles during the lengthening part? Can I come up here, but then can I nice and slowly and in a controlled manner get back to my starting position? Now, me using the example of bicep curls is obviously just one example. This happens with every lift you do, especially if you are moving the joint during the lift, which a lot of times we are, right? I am moving a joint right here doing an overhead press. I am moving a joint doing a deadlift. I'm moving a joint, of course, doing a squat, multiple joints, which is why, a squat is a great compound movement. Just keep in mind that when you are hearing these words, eccentric, yes, it's very important. But the concentric part, that shortening, is even more important to me. And you know why? Because when it comes to bone health, how do we know that strength training is working? We know because of the shortening part of the lift. That is the part where the muscle belly and the tendon that attaches to the bone is getting the signal of pulling. Okay, it's getting that pulling motion when we shorten the muscle. And it's that pulling motion that sends the signal for osteoblast activity, right? We need the osteoblast activity in order to build bone mineral density. So they're both important, concentric, eccentric. I don't want you to get too far in the weeds about, oh, well, this particular brand or this company is really saying that I need this. You do need what they're talking about, but you need all the other stuff too. And remember, in this video, I just talked about the isotonic movements, the ones that you're more familiar with. Of course, there are other things like isometric movements, like doing a wall sit or a plank, where you are not moving whatsoever. But is that move hard? Oh, yeah, you know it is. It's very challenging. There are all different ways for you to move your body and strengthen your body. So once again, don't get too stuck in the weeds about what this term means versus that term. Know that they're all important. And if you're doing normal weightlifting, know that the shortening of the muscle and the lengthening of the muscle, concentric, eccentric, are both important in your journey. That's it for today. In the comments below, what is your current favorite strength training move? What are you loving? What is the move that you didn't realize you were going to love it, but you like it? You like the challenge of it. You like the way you feel doing it, and you definitely like the way you feel afterwards. Drop that in the comments below. I love to hear what you're doing and what you are loving. Thanks again for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you next time for another hot topic.